Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to continue along my way of adding yet another episode to the series that I'm doing at the moment, entitled All That I've Learned from Tony Robbins over the years. As you can see, we've got a ship just going around the front of Benelong Point, and I think it'll be coming over here this morning to dock up at the International Passenger Terminal, or what's known as the Overseas Passenger Terminal. And this ship is a special ship. From what I can see in the distance there, it's the Disney ship, which arrived the other day to have its first trip out of Sydney. So what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to learn? What I thought would be good would be to touch on a topic that Tony Robbins harps on all the time, and I guess it's one of his key topics, one of those topics that he enjoys and he's really good at. And he's good at a lot of things, by the way. So what we're going to talk about today is change, the importance of changing, because we live in a world of change. It cannot be denied. Our bodies are changing, our minds are changing, the people around us are constantly changing. The environment is changing, so much so that we have a whole movement, a whole focus now on environmental change. So nothing in the world will ever remain the same, except, of course, the love of God and the presence of God. Everything else is subject to decay and to the laws of constant and never-ending change. And this in itself brings discomfort to people. It brings discomfort to cultures, to countries, because you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, because nobody has been to the future, and all we have is this moment. All we have is a thing known as the eternal now, something that we've got and just continues forever and ever. And we live with limited time to achieve our calling, to achieve the dreams that we have set for ourselves or others have set for us through expectation. Our parents, our grandparents, our forefathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, work peers. We live in a world of constant expectation. And Tony Robbins, of course, reminds us that we need, and everybody needs, to live their own unique life, to live their own calling. And just because it was right for other people who came before us doesn't necessarily mean that it is right for us right now. And we all need to continue to challenge ourselves and to look into ourselves to make sure that what we're doing is expressing who we are, as opposed to expressing somebody else's view on who we should be, and to indulge in trial and error, to make mistakes, to learn, knowing that these mistakes are stepping stones to our future. and we're building patterns, we're generating learnings, we're attaching the unknown to the known, we're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And all of these things are critical to who we are and who we're going to become, and to know that our past doesn't equal our future. Just because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean it's not going to work in the future. And that God's delays are not God's denials. We just need to stick to our own plan, to stick to our dreams. And the big lesson that Tony Robbins basically articulates ever so clearly is that in terms of change, we can change in a heartbeat. We can change immediately. We don't need to wait for everything to be perfect in order for us to take the next step, because nothing, as we mentioned before, is perfect, or nothing in our human experience is perfect other than God himself. So it's comforting to know, and I mentioned it at fellowship last night, that the only thing that we confidently have in our life is God. God's not fleeting. And God's love is something that is above everything else. Doesn't matter what hardship, what challenge, what hiccup you have in your life, you can bank on God, and you can bank on God's love, is the key message. So what we're alluding to here is the fact that God's love is unconditional, whereas all other relationships, all other things that happen in this world are conditional, and one day everything is going to disappear, because time conquers all. There's no doubt about that. The greatest loves in the world, the greatest relationship in the world, will slowly change and will at some point disappear. The love of a mother for a child, the love of a husband for his wife, the love of friendships, all of those are subject to change. And we know ourselves, when we were young, and I was reflecting on this the other day, when we were young and at school, I had friendships, I had friends that I thought would be my friends forever. Nothing was ever going to change. But then you realise, you grow up, you change schools, or you change suburbs, or you change jobs, you move on, you get married, you find other friendships at university, and what you realise is that those friendships that you thought were impossible to break, that were going to be there forever, aren't necessarily there forever. And you look back after 60 years or 50 years and wonder where all the time went, and wonder where all your friends are. I'm just trying to organise a catch-up with a few of my friends at the moment. And believe it or not, it is so hard to organise and to coordinate our diaries so that we can meet just for an hour or two and catch up and see how we're going. Whereas once upon a time, we lived in each other's lives. There wasn't a moment, it wasn't a Saturday, it wasn't a Sunday where we weren't catching up, where we weren't together, where we weren't, the closest of friends. So a very big reflection on the importance of friendship, and to once again understand that change is inevitable. Change is something which is happening continually, and that's why people who are perfectionists are the ones who suffer the most during times of change, because they want everything to be as it once was. They suffer because things are changing. They're wired for pain by wanting things to stay the same when things cannot stay the same. And this is where Anthony Robbins says that we need to be constantly recalibrating ourselves and to be looking for progress over perfection. Because if you are stuck with perfection, if you have that mindset that you want things to be perfect all the time, and we're not saying not to lift the standard and not to live to a high standard of living and to have strong and considerate values. What we're saying is not to stick and to be too hard-headed on wanting everything to stay as they were, because you're going to be wired for pain, you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to suffer. And this is where the key message of Anthony Robbins comes through, where he says that when you change, when you decide to cut away and to change, your whole world changes for you. I've heard a few people mention this over the years, so like everything, Anthony Robbins is an emissary, he's a messenger. He takes the message, he presents it, he puts it, he contemporizes it, he makes it modern so that we can take knowledge that has always been here and around us and wisdom, and he makes it available for people so that they can apply to their lives and make relevant to them. It's important to understand that, as we said before, there is nothing new in the world, and I say this over and over again because Anthony Robbins says it over and over again as well. There's nothing new in the world. All the problems that you have, all the problems that we have, all the problems that every person has ever experienced in the world have been experienced by other people. And within a lifetime, usually most people go through a series of challenges, just like Hercules in Greek mythology went through a number of challenges in his life. The so-called gods created these challenges for him. We too, as humans, will go through a number of challenges in our life, and it's normal. It's normal to go through challenge. It's nothing which is unusual. And it's through these challenges that we grow, we develop, and we become who we end up being. The question is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it and who it makes us or who it turns us into. So we need to, I guess, figure out how to best make the most of the opportunities and the tests that life will throw at us, and to use it to grow, develop, and become a better version of ourselves, and to know that when we change, our whole world changes for us, and not to expect others to change around us. Because of course they are changing, but they're changing at a rapid rate, at a different rate. And just like Steve Hawkins said in his book, The History of Time, he said that the universe is constantly expanding, constantly growing, and the planets are getting further and further apart. The galaxies are growing and getting further and further apart from each other. So there's nothing going to stop the universe from continuing to expand and grow. There's nothing going to stop the planets turning, the moon turning, and us revolving around the sun, and the whole universe doing whatever it does in its expansion mode. And we too, as people, are called to expand, to continue to expand, to grow, develop, because that's where fulfillment comes, where we answer the challenge, we embrace growth, we embrace development, we embrace change, and we find meaning in change that is empowering, that's going to help us and going to lead us to a different place in our lives. So Anthony Robbins says, open your heart, open your mind, and welcome change into your life. And one of the challenges that he invites us all to do is to do something different, to try something new, to say yes to things in your life. A book that I recently delivered on Jim's 5am Club, called 365 Days or a Year to Saying Yes, was a book about a female executive who was very, very successful in what she did, but just felt lonely, just felt empty. And somebody offered her a challenge, and that challenge was for 365 days to simply just say yes to everything and open up her life to the opportunity that abounds, and to believe and trust in God's will. And of course, to say yes to everything means to be cautious, of course. You don't just go and do things which are going to be dangerous, but to experience life and to let life take you on a journey. And this is what Anthony Robbins says, that we need to say yes to more things and to do the things that we don't normally do. We need to live with positive expectancy and to trust in God's will and to enjoy the ride, because at the end of the day, God wants us to have a wonderful life and to learn from the experiences that we have. Of course, not being naive to think that all the experiences that God will provide us are going to be fun experiences. Many of the experiences that God will provide us are going to be for our spiritual growth and development, to be able to put things into perspective and to live a balanced life where we express and fully live the wheels of our life, where we fill in the gaps and try and expand in all areas, so we have a good life, but a life not of just serving ourselves, a life of serving God with all our heart, mind and soul, and loving our neighbour as we love ourselves. So when Anthony Robbins talks about saying yes to everything, what he's saying is to open up our heart, open up our minds, and to enjoy the full spectrum of what creation has available to us. So what we're saying, and what Anthony Robbins is saying here, is that we need to live outside our comfort zone. And society, families, schools, work environments, everywhere we look in our lives is fighting for us to stay as we are and not to change. To stay as we are, to shoehorn us, to pigeonhole us into a particular category and to never change again. But that's not how we're designed. That's not the dream that God has for us. By all means, That's the ideal for a family and structures like society and community. But we need the flexibility. We need the ability to flex so that we can grow and develop and add value, and for others to come through and for them to flex and grow and add value, rather than everybody being exactly the same. One of my spiritual teachers always tells me that God could have made everything exactly the same. He could have made all the buildings exactly the same. He could have made all the trees exactly the same. He could have made every person exactly the same. But he chose not to. He chose to provide us with uncertainty. He chose to provide us with variety so that we could look forward to every moment in our lives as an opportunity to experience God's love and to be able to, as we said before, to enjoy perspective, to have both salt and pepper, to have vanilla and other flavours, so that our life was different and that each person's life is unique to them. Each person has a unique experience of life, a different relationship with God to anybody else, but to experience all of that spectrum, to experience all the flavours, all the seasons, all the stages, all the phases, depending on where we are in our lives at a particular time. But in order to experience life, in order to maximise the ride and to fully serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, we need to release ourselves. We need to submit to God's rule, to God's will, and not to do all the things and only the things that we want, the things that give us pleasure. Because if we do that, then we limit our lives. We need to be able to, as I say, let caution go to the wind and to trust in God's love, as we're saying, and just to say yes and to enjoy the ride. Anthony Robbins says something which is really, really profound and powerful, where he says that all things are easy to teach. However, hunger and desire is something that is unique to each and every one of us. Each and every one of us need to take the plunge. Each and every one of us need to rise to the challenge. And it is up to us. It's not up to your mother, not up to your father, not up to the teacher, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, your grandparents, your boss, the Prime Minister. It's not up to anybody else. Each of us need to identify and to follow our calling or callings. And nobody's going to come and tap you on the shoulder and say, this is your calling. Each person, as Anthony Robbins says, needs to discover their calling by themselves and to reach deep into their heart and into their soul and ask themselves the question, what is it that I'm here for? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my skills? And what is my desire? What am I hungry for? Knowing that the devil and Satan is also at play. So we need to find the balance and make sure that our desires and our hunger are for the things that are going to be spiritually rich for us and are going to lead us to a better place and not going to lead us to jail or to hospital when you consider that. So once again, Anthony Robbins invites us to be gap fillers. And guess what? Whenever you fill a gap, another gap will open, and it will need to be addressed. So just to understand that that's life. Life is a challenge, and it's not only Hercules that was given challenges, but each and every person by participating in life will be challenged, will have lots of challenges. And guess what? We're all going to have fairly similar challenges because life is is cyclical. No, we're born, we live, we go to school, we make friends, we fall in love, we fall out of love, people come into our lives, people go out of our lives, and it's just a never-ending cycle that everybody gets to enjoy. Some people get to get married, some people get to have children, some people have a multitude of different experiences throughout their lives, but sooner or later, hopefully, we get the gift of aging, and then, we get older. Some of us will have illnesses that we'll need to traverse and navigate, and just understand that that's all part of life. And if you are to live a full life, if you are to live a complete life, then you need to understand that all of these things, all of these ingredients are going to happen at some point in time, and it's up to each and every one of us to try and figure out the right formula in terms of how to do it, how to figure it out, how to work it, so that we maximize our time in this world, we maximize our opportunity to find God, to be one with God, and to be God's servant in everything we do, and to receive and to express at the same time God's love, God's unconditional love, where we are going to get let down by family and friends. We are going to let down family and friends, and it's all going to be part of our life experience, and to understand that we need to, at some point in time, make the most and to try and find fulfillment and comfort in our life, because the big man, Tony Robbins, who socializes with billionaires and who spent his life talking to and with people, understands that the greatest gift in the world that we could ever hope to have is to find fulfillment, to find contentment in our own lives. Because Tony Robbins reminds us that if you find fulfillment and contentment in your life, if you're able to give to others, if you're able to continue to grow and develop and to express unconditional love, to love your neighbour as you love yourself, to take time to love yourself, to pat yourself on the back, but to also build and invest in yourself so that you can become a bigger and better version of yourself, not to help yourself only, but to take those gifts of God, and to pass them on to other people. So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for taking this opportunity to join me on this episode of All That I've Learnt from Tony Robbins. I've been doing this for about three and a half years, and I absolutely love it. I get up in the morning and I just can't wait to get out of the house, on the bus, come down to the city, and just do a vlog where I can express my inner soul. I can live, learn, and pass on the many learnings that come our way on a daily basis, knowing that learning is the art of just attaching the unknown to the known, and the more we know, the more that we're capable of knowing. And to know that this is how life is, and we need to embrace it, we need to receive it, we need to allow God's will to take place, and to surf the energy, surf the opportunity, surf the problems, the challenges, and not to shy away from them, not to try and relieve ourselves and hide from the challenges of life, but to boldly take them on, to walk in the direction of where the problems are coming from, rather than trying to run away from them. Because fear is our enemy. Fear, as Anthony Robbins calls it, it's false evidence appearing real. Fear is a figment of our imagination. Most of the fears, Anthony Robbins says, are just imaginary fears. They are irrational fears. They're not real. They don't appear to hold justice, because 85, 90, 95, 99% of all of those things that most people fear will never ever happen. They'll never ever manifest themselves unless, as Anthony Robbins says, unless you focus on them. Because guess what? What you get in your life is what you focus on. So if you're focusing on something which is negative, if you're focusing on what you don't want, then the fact that you're focusing on it means that's where all your energy is going to flow, and you're going to sadly manifest the things you don't want by focusing intently on all those things you don't want. So the call to action from Anthony Robbins, from the big man, is to focus on the things that you want, to focus on the things that are going to allow you to grow and develop, to focus on things that are going to be of benefit, that are going to serve God, and to ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing, is what I'm thinking, is where I'm going right now going to serve God, or is it just going to serve my own selfish interests? So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much. And here we have this wonderful, wonderful ship, the Disney Wonder, I think it's called. Let's go to the front here and we'll just finish off the video. But I just love coming down here to Circular Quay. Ever since I was a kid, I remember as a 7 or 8 year old, I was just down there at Circular Quay, and I said to myself, when I grow up, I want to come down here as often as possible, because I just love the sounds. I remember loving the smells back then, the ice cream, the hot chips, the ferry boats going back and forward, going to Luna Park, the sound of the train, the hum of the ships, the rattling of the train. There's a train coming in right now. All of those things, all of those experiences were just really, really special to me as a kid. And I guess they're special to everybody, regardless of your age, because what I'm learning as I'm getting older is that we're all kids at heart. So I'll finish off now. Take care. I look forward to coming to you again from another place with another message of empowerment, where I continue along my path of putting together a tribute series of 365 videos for the big man Anthony Robbins, entitled All That I've Ever Learned from Anthony Robbins Over the Years, where we go on a journey of learning and discovery. Take care, everybody. Wishing you all the best, and bye for now. Yasas.